God, through the only begotten Son, has created worlds without number. They cannot be numbered unto man. And he did it through the power of Jesus Christ. Well, then that raises all kinds of questions about, wait a minute, of all the worlds that Jesus has created, he came to this planet instead of any of those. Wait, you're living on the same earth that the creator of worlds without number came to. How many worlds are there out there? You know, back in the 70s and 80s, with our telescope technology, we had a pretty good idea that space was big. It went way out there. But once we started getting technologies where they could launch big, high-powered telescopes up into space, where you don't have to compete with the atmosphere for seeing out into the distant, far reaches of space. For instance, NASA sent up the Hubble telescope, and in 1995, they're looking at all kinds of things out in space with this newfound ability. Well, one of the tests that they did was they looked at a really, really dark part of the sky that they could find. For those of us who live in the northern hemisphere, it's actually a little area just a little bit above the dip of the Big Dipper in the northern part of our sky. And what they did was they zoomed in with the capacity of the Hubble telescope's zooming capacity to the size of a grain of sand held at arm's length. Now think about that for a minute. A size of a grain of sand held out at arm's length, and they aimed that at the darkest part of the sky, one of the darkest parts of the sky they could find, and then zoomed into that capacity to see what's out there. And they let the Hubble orbit 10 consecutive days, 236 times or something along those lines, opening the shutter at that exact spot, and then they download the image. And the jaws drop. And they don't know what to say because they see this. Layer upon layer upon layer of galaxies, each with billions of stars. And that's in the size of a grain of sand, held at arm's length, pointed at the darkest part of the sky. It makes the soul tremble to pause for a minute and ponder the grandeur and the glory of our God and the creation of our God. And here he is telling Moses, I have created worlds without number through the power of my Son, mine only begotten Son, and you happen to be living on the same earth as that Son who did all that creation. Which now begs the question, why? Why here? And what is this earth all about? So to help us get an inkling of the answer to that question, why here? Why this earth? Let's take a really, really quick field trip over to Moses 7. We'll cover that later on in a subsequent week's lesson. But let's just pick it up a little teeny concept from Moses 7, where Enoch is also caught up in this huge vision and seeing some amazing things. And in part of the vision, he looks over and sees God weeping and asks why he's weeping. God gives him a long answer as to why he's crying over some inhabitants on this earth. But then look at Moses 7, verse 36 very carefully about the significance of this particular planet. Verse 36, wherefore I can stretch forth mine hands and hold all the creations which I have made, and mine eye can pierce them also. Did you get that? Based on Moses 1, God can hold all the creations in his hand and his eye can pierce them also, and those are numberless to man. We can't number them. Look at what he says at the end of verse 36. And among all the workmanship of mine hands, there has not been so great wickedness as among thy brethren. Makes you wonder how powerfully, literally, we should read that verse to say, wait a minute, if we take that for face value, what God just told Enoch is, of all the worlds without number I've created, I can't find greater wickedness than I can find on your planet. So naturally, the only begotten would come to this planet, perhaps to perform his miracles and his ministry and to teach his gospel and to establish his kingdom, perhaps because this is a world where he would actually be able to fulfill all of the necessary requirements for that atonement, including being lifted up by men and slain for the sins of the world. If you look at Jesus' own definition for his gospel in 3 Nephi 27. Now, if you come back to Moses chapter 1, this begs us to ask even more questions about who we are. Does that mean that everybody should now feel extra wicked? Or does that mean we should go to the other extreme and feel like we're somehow the elite of the elite? Or should we not spend as much time worrying about that and simply be grateful for the opportunity we have to live on this earth with, based on Scripture, a fairly high degree of spiritual difficulty, and maybe we could be a little more patient with that person in the mirror and with those people around us, realizing this is not an easy planet to live on, nor is this an easy time to live in, the fullness of times. Now look at the description he gives of some of these worlds that he's shown to Moses. And remember, he's not showing him all of them. Look, verse 34. The first man of all men have I called Adam, which is many. But only an account of this earth and the inhabitants thereof give I unto you. For behold, there are many worlds that have passed away by the word of my power, and there are many that now stand, and innumerable are they unto man. But all things are numbered unto me, for I know them, and they are mine, and I know them.